thank you everyone for joining us for this event on applying to and succeeding in law school. My name is Dr. Yu Oyang, and along with Viviana Plaza, who is the president of Purdue Northwest's chapter of Pi Sigma Alpha, thank you for joining us. We're excited to hear from three of our former students, Leslie Fucinato, Rosa Tolwell, and Chloe Carpentier. They have a lot of experiences that, us older professors cannot really offer. And we are very glad that they're willing to take the time out of their day to chat with us about their experiences applying to law school and thriving in law school. So the format of tonight is I have prepared of some basic questions that I would like to ask our panelists, and then we're going to open this up to everyone for questions to the folks that are here to share their thoughts with us. So sounds good? All righty. So just to get started, Rosa, Leslie, and Chloe, would you mind very quickly introduce yourself to all of us, your name, where you graduated from, where in the process are you in law school, and anything else that you would like to share with us?
I can go first. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. Thanks for hosting us. I know when you don't really know very many people that have gone through the process of going through law school, it really is helpful just to kind of chat and touch base and just ask questions about what to expect, et cetera, et cetera. So my name is Leslie. I am a 1L. This is my second semester. I am at NIU Law. I graduated from Purdue when it was Purdue Calumet. So I think I was the last class right before they transferred over to Purdue Northwest. And then what else did you want us to say? Is that good?
That's perfect. Thank you.
Okay, no problem.
Rosa?
I can go. So I graduated from Purdue. I am currently in law school. I'm technically a 3L, I guess, because I'm graduating early. So I credit loaded. I go to Chicago Kent. It's a wonderful school. I love it. And yeah, I mean, I work at a law firm now. I've been offered a full-time position after graduation with a partnership track. So yeah, I think that my school and my undergrad really prepared me for this position. So I'm so thankful that, and I'm glad here to share with the rest of you. Thanks for inviting me.
Awesome, thank you.
Hi, I'm Chloe. I am a 0L, so that means that I'm not in law school yet, but I've done the application process and I am in the process of just waiting to hear back from Vanderbilt. And if there was one piece of advice that I could give, it's take your time when you're applying to law school, and don't pay for it. Because I'm not paying for it, so.
And we would definitely ask
Oh
you.
my God, yeah, I was gonna say I second and third.
We're going to definitely ask you questions about how to not pay for law school. And thank you. So it's clear that we have people at different stages of law school. We have a third-year law student, first-year law student, and a not yet but soon to be law student. Let's start with a very basic question. Why law school?
Okay, I can do this. It's not because I love to argue, because I don't like to argue, to be honest. It's because you can do a greater good for policy work. You can do a greater good. The way that the law works is it builds on top of each other. Something has to build the precedent for something else. And you can advocate for somebody and do a greater good for society by creating that precedent. So if you go to court tomorrow for something, even a civil matter, you got in a car accident, your attorney is going to find an old case that matches your case and use that to implement change. So if you can be somebody who advocates really well for someone else, you can make that small little change by one case and it'll have that domino effect to say, hey, this is the way we're going to move forward. So yeah, your job may not be to be the attorney general, right? You're not going to maybe change the world all at one time, but every single case you have the chance to make an impact.
Okay. I like to argue, so I absolutely love to argue, but after I came out of undergrad and I started going into the professional world, I think I kind of realized I didn't have all the tools that I needed to argue effectively, especially in the realm that I wanted to. So I chose law school because I have to know more if I'm going to advocate for someone who may be in, a disadvantaged position. I have to know more about how our legal system works in order to fully advocate for them.
Well, so I graduated and I didn't know what the hell I wanted to do. And I really remember being really stressed out about it. And I took this job at a law firm and it wasn't what I wanted to do because I thought I wanted to pursue my PhD. So I'd always had some sort of like grad school in the works, which later on played to my advantage because I always was very diligent about getting good grades. But after working in a law firm for a little while, my attorney was a former public defender. And I realized that advocating, kind of like everybody else was saying, for people who are disadvantaged, or specifically like being a public defender and giving somebody a fair trial, even if you are pretty sure they're guilty, is the basis of our legal system, making sure that everybody has a fair trial. And I think that I can do that effectively. And so that's why I decided to go. And I want to do it. Like,
So once you have set your mind on going to law school, can you share with us a little bit about what the application process was like for you?
yeah, I can take this one first since I think I'm the most recent one. It took me a year to apply to law school. I actually took my first diagnostic not this past summer, but the summer before. And I ended up not doing too hot on the LSAT. So the LSAT is measured between a 130, like you don't do anything, and a 180, nearly perfect. My diagnostic was a 143. And I was pretty devastated by that because I had always done well in undergrad. And so when I got that result back, like it was just like earth shattering. And I told myself, I was like, I'm not going to pay for law school because I had stumbled across Thinking LSAT is a podcast, and they tell you don't pay for law school because there's a large percentage of people who go to law school and end up not actually practicing law or not liking it. But then you're caught up in like a ton of debt and you're stuck. So I spent a year studying for the LSAT, and I eventually I took it this past May. And it was I got a 158, and then I took it again and I got a 163, and I was like, all right, I'm done. So that's kind of like the beginning. And that's actually, I think, like the easiest part of applying to law school. Then comes like your personal statement, your letters of recommendation. And you should get your applications in as soon as they open. So like, I think it's like September. Some of them open up earlier. Michigan's opened up in like August. So as soon as they're open, get your application in because they give money to the people who apply earlier. I'm sitting right now with 4 full rides to top 50 schools. So I have my choice of where I want to go, but I was very specific about how and methodical about how I approached it. So that's what I have.
That was a great
piggyback
answer.
off that to
Go
say.
ahead.
Go ahead, Liz.
Okay. Yeah, I was just gonna say, Chloe, that was a absolutely great answer. The LSAT is a huge part of it, but I would also say that your personal statement has a lot to do with what kind of funding that you can get. She hit the nail right on the head that it's very grueling. You want to get your application in. If the school that you're applying to has like an early application period, the sooner you get it in, the sooner you're going to get accepted, and the sooner you're going to know what kind of funding you're looking at. So yeah, Chloe, that was definitely spot on.
Yeah, I would also say I wish that I had applied earlier. I took LSAT 3 times. I got a 158, which was fine. I got a 163 and I got a 173. So I was like, gunning it. But then I applied so late. I got accepted to some really great schools, but with no funding because I applied late. But the school I'm at now offered me a full ride, even though I applied late, which was great. But I had professors and I had like Dr. Yu, Dr. Rinker, like asking them to look over my personal statements. And they are such a resource, you guys. Please take advantage. They will rip your writing apart and make you put it back together. And it's a service to you. They don't enjoy doing it. Nobody likes doing it, but just don't be defensive. Just thank them. Just trust me, it only gets worse. So yeah, but I would say definitely if there's one thing I could change, I would have applied way earlier because I applied late and I would have had more opportunities. Like I got into University of Chicago, which I could have gone to, right? Great school, but I would have been paying full tuition. And then I didn't apply early enough to go to Northwestern because they require an interview process. But I was lucky that my school offered me a full ride. I was fortunate, honestly. And my school is like, it's a great school and amazing. And it's where I'm so glad I ended up. But I would have had more wiggle room maybe to ask for even a stipend from them had I had the other opportunities, had I applied earlier.
Thank you.
Professor, I have a question. So I know it was said it took a year to apply. How long did it take to study for the LSAT? And was it a part of that year, or was it like in addition to that year, or what?
So by the time I had like started scoring well, I was probably somewhere like in the position where Rosa was talking about, where you're kind of screwed when it comes to funding. So when I was scoring well, I decided to keep studying. I didn't study every day. I couldn't. I personally could not study every day and I needed to take breaks. But by the time, like, so I guess I had studied for a year, but I was studying like every other day or maybe like 4 days out of the week, 5 days out of the week, but I couldn't do it every day. Like, and I just recognize that about myself because when you start testing like that, sometimes your scores go down and you should be tracking it all. So what I used is called like the LSAT Demon, and it was like $200 a month, but you have access to all the tests and it's on an electronic format. And it's really helpful now because the LSAT itself is all electronic. Like you will never go back to a paper test. And that was just like a recent announcement. So I would recommend that you take a diagnostic and see where you're at. If your diagnostic is like a 151, 6 months and you'll be scoring in the high 160s if you're doing it diligently. And it also kind of like, but like if you're like me and you didn't score so high originally, I was lucky because I had a strong GPA that carried me. But like you kind of have to have one or the other. My 163 wasn't bad, but it wasn't great. Like I probably should have taken it again, but after a year of studying, I was just like, I cannot. So it took me like a year to fully study for it. And I will say I had somebody do it with me. So I had somebody who held me accountable and somebody who was honest with me, because I have friends who, when we would study together, they would maybe read my papers and not be honest with me, but she would be the one who was like, you're thinking about this wrong. You're not right. And this is why you're not right. And that was very fundamental for me, like very important and foundational to like my growth. So.
Just also, I would add to that. I 100% agree. I couldn't study it every day. Also, I was working at a law firm, right? So I wasn't able to study every day. But I feel like when I would overstudy and I would burn myself out, it would give me like a aversion to it and I wasn't absorbing it. So I do think that kind of building in breaks. And then Emily, I saw your question in the chat. I think I was going to wait another year, but okay. So I was living in Tampa working at a workers' comp law firm, right? We did insurance defense and I knew I did not like workers' comp, but I still wanted to go to law school because I liked other forms of law that we did in our office. But for me, it was like my lease was ending in Tampa. I knew I wanted to go back to school in Chicago. I was like, I'm just going to go to University of Chicago and pay for it, whatever. And then I got there, I did orientation and I was like, I'm not doing this. I don't want to do it. And I still had the full ride offer from Chicago Kent, which I paid for my seat, and then they were like refunded it to me when I took the seat. So I think if that wasn't the case where I wanted to get out of Tampa and like go back home to just start, if I didn't already have that in my mind, like canceled my lease and stuff, I would have waited another year. So yeah, I would suggest waiting another year. And then at all, like in August or in whenever your application's open, just make sure you are ready to go. Packets ready, PDFs ready, and just apply. And
The
then yeah.
The other thing that I would like to add to that is you could apply and then wait it out, kind of like Rosa did. And if Rosa decided to go forward the next year, she would have to explain why she was reapplying. So if you have the option, which it sounds like you didn't, like you had like circumstantial stuff going on, but like if you weren't underneath those circumstances, you should wait and apply because you want that to be your first time. And with her score, she probably would have been looking at like money at Chicago, like a lot of money at Northwestern, depending on like what your GPA is. So I would wait, but you know, it depends on like what you're wanting. If you want to go to law school just to go to law school, then, you know, and you don't have like anything pushing you to go that year, then do it. But if you have the ability to wait, you will be looking at a lot more money.
So once you have applied, once you start receiving where you have been admitted and what the funding package looks like, how did you decide on which law school to attend?
Well, so the minute I started getting my scholarship packets, I'd take a shot for everyone. I'm just kidding. Just kidding. But so there's different ranks to schools, and when you hit a certain rank, your rank opens up doors. So for me, I received a full ride to Florida State. I received a full ride to Madison, UW-Madison, Indiana, and Illinois. And for me, not paying for it means opportunities to do what I want. Like if I want to do something that doesn't make a lot of money, I can do that. But I made my decision based off of law school transparency, which I can pull that up and show that to you guys. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it shows you job outcomes and their unemployment score as well as their bar pass rate. So I'm leaning towards Illinois right now because their bar pass rate is 95% and they're well-rounded in big law, like small law firms. They have like a 10% clerkship output, and just like other stuff. But then let's say like I compared it to like Wisconsin and Indiana and then Florida State, and I made my decision based off of the numbers. Like the numbers at the different schools that I was looking at, like the on law school transparency, were just, I don't know. It didn't make sense for me to go somewhere else because at the end of the day, like you're going to law school to have the best opportunity post law school. So like that's what I went with. But I can drop that link into the chat and you can play around with it. On that website also, it will tell you, like you can pick a state and you can see what schools feed into that state. So that's what I got.
I'll jump in. I ultimately chose NIU because so I only applied. I'm a homeowner, so I'm staying in Illinois, obviously. I applied to all the Illinois schools, and I took the funding that I was offered. I took that out of the equation, and I looked at NIU. And NIU does have the lowest tuition of all of the Illinois schools. I think they're at $22,000 per year. And I think the next one up is going to be John Marshall, and they're at 36. I was offered more than half of tuition. So to me, it boiled down to the numbers, but also NIU has a really good bar passage rate there. I think that they were at 83% last year. But then before I was accepted and received my offer package, they had already announced that they were going to be remote. At the time, my mom was sick. She had cancer. I had to be remote. I could not take that chance. So that was kind of one of the things that came into play with me. Oh, and I did not want to take the train to Chicago to go to class. So that was a huge thing for me.
Okay, so my situation was obviously a little bit more sporadic. I applied late, but I got accepted to like a lot of schools. I got waitlisted at a few like really great schools. Like I got waitlisted at Yale, so I was like all set for Connecticut. But I was living in Tampa, just kind of interim. I did my AmeriCorps service down here, and then I stayed for like 2 or 3 years. And I was like, okay, it's time to like apply for grad school and stop like being a bum. You know, this is what you want to do. So I started the application process while I was working, and it made it a little bit complicated for me because like I used Khan Academy, which I really suggest for LSAT. They do a diagnostic and then they kind of tailor the lessons for you, and it's free. So I enjoyed Khan Academy. I made use of that. And then my first score was pretty good. My second score was pretty good, but my diagnostic and stuff I was in 175s, you know, so I was like, I want to do this again. I got 173 and that was great. I got waitlisted at Yale. I got accepted to a bunch of great schools, but I was applying so late. Some of them required interviews and I had missed the deadline. And then I decided that I wanted to go back to Chicago because it's easier for me. My family's there. I can live with a family member. It'll make it so much more convenient for me so I can study and live without a lot of responsibility because I have so many people to fall back on. You know, my support system is all in Chicago. And I really thought I would never come back to Tampa. And here I am. So I mean, yeah, that was kind of what it was for me. Geographically, it was advantageous. I was like, okay, I got accepted to University of Chicago, which was amazing school. And so that kind of paired. And then the funding issue came into play. I went to the orientation for University of Chicago, and they were telling me it was going to be like 95,000, and there was really no option for me. If I wanted to defer, they would keep my seat payment, which was like 10,000. So ultimately, I really decided that Chicago Camp was a better option for me because I had the support of my family. I was able to start this year, and I wasn't just so daunted like I was at University of Chicago. I was feeling a lot of frustration by the price, and just the orientation was a bit overwhelming. But then when I went to Chicago Kent, you know, they were really supportive, really wonderful, super diverse. I didn't feel intimidated because of my religion or ethnicity or anything. And I really just thoroughly enjoyed my orientation there. And I had my family. I was able to live with my brother, and they're very the staff there and the faculty are so like coveted, you know, like they teach at both schools. A lot of the professors teach at University of Chicago too. So that's why I chose Kent ultimately. And you know, they're very well educated and they offer a lot of networking possibilities for job opportunities. So I had decided to do that.
Also, can I add in something? A tool that was really important to me when I was doing this was the 509 ABA. And can I share my screen?
Sure.
I don't know how to screen share. I'm gonna try it.
There should be a green button at the bottom of your screen that says share screen.
Oh, okay. All right. Not technologically friendly, I am.
You're 30 years younger than I am. What are you talking about?
I think that's it. Oh, sorry, guys. I don't know. Oh, Professor Ouyang, can you open this up on your screen?
Open what up?
I'm sending it to you. I'm putting it in the chat.
All right.
Yeah, because I want to talk about it because this is important when you go to like apply to law schools because you should be applying within your target range.
It is now up.
Okay, so this is a 509 ABA, and what this is the American Bar Association has to disclose things such as how much money they give and what the LSAT and the GPA are. So if you look at the top, it'll kind of just give you the basics about the school, tell you the applications, the acceptance rate, and then when you scroll down, it will tell you the 75th, the 50th, and the 25th percentile LSAT. Now, if I was somebody who was scoring a 150 and I had a 3.0 GPA, I'd be throwing money at the school to apply there. And I'm like, that's just the reality. So you want to be within your the target ranges here. I like a school that I threw money at was like Michigan. I got waitlisted and I don't actually intend to go because I know I'm going to pay a lot of money, but I just wanted to see if I get in. And that 509 ABA looks different, but also if you scroll down, it will tell you the scholarship, the grants and scholarships. So if you look at this, it'll also tell you the tuition. Oh, scroll up just a little bit. All right. So it'll tell you that full time for a resident, it's about $1,800 a semester. A non-resident it's about $2,300. But if you scroll down and you look at their grants and scholarships, you'll see that 100% of the students receive scholarships, or 99% of them receive scholarships, and you'll see their 75th and 50th percentile grant. So I applied to the school expecting a full ride. And so you want to make sure that you're within a target range. Like, there's schools that have similar numbers to this, but they don't have as much scholarship money. And I knew I didn't want to pay, so I didn't apply. And the other thing too is that every school that's accredited will have this. And if a school is not bar accredited, you should not apply there because it's predatory. They have a low bar pass rate, and the chances of you getting a job that pays a livable amount of money for the loans you're going to take on is low. So you just want to be cautious with it.
So definitely do your research and look at the law schools that you're planning to apply to.
Yeah, I mean, if you apply to like several small private law schools, and your scores are at their 50th percentile range, you'll probably get some scholarship, but you could probably find maybe some lower ranked schools where your numbers are at the top, and you should expect a full ride to that school.
All right. So thank you for sharing the 509 report with us, Chloe. So obviously we have, 3 excellent students at different stages of their law school career. What's your experience like right now? So for Leslie, you and I were chatting earlier that this is your midterm right now.
Yes, it's midterm week. And it's really strange to me. I think the one thing that strikes me about law school that's different is, in undergrad, if you're in midterms or finals, the other professors do not care. You're still doing your course load. There's no free ride out of it. But in law school, if you tell your professors, hey, we have a midterm to do, they'll kind of shorten your reading, or they'll let you out of class early but this is a double-edged sword, because it means one of two things. Either they really care about your success, or the midterms are that hard that they're willing to sacrifice some of their class time with you. So I would have to say that that's probably one of the strangest things that has happened in law school since I started. One thing that I did, I came into this event and I'm like, I have to tell these students, if you apply, if you get accepted, if you decide to matriculate to law school, please, please, please learn how to make great outlines. I'm sorry, all the professors that I've had that may be joining us, I never studied in undergrad. I never had to. I understood the information. I retained it very well. It's not like that in law school. You will be thrown so much information in such a vastly different way. I don't care how sharp your brain is. You're not capable of withholding all of that information. So take time over the summer before you start school and learn how to do good outlines. It will help you for midterms and finals.
I second that. Okay. It's like trying to take a sip of water from a fire hose. Okay. You can't do it. You just can't. You cannot just absorb everything they're feeding you. My professors have written all of my books, right? They're all published law professors. So you have these 2,000 page books, and they know it like that. I'll ask a question and they'll say, look at page 747, and they just know it. And you have to know it on their exams because you're curved, right? So you're curved based on what they think an A should be. And they have to give only 2 A+ and 3 A's. And then that's all they can give. So you need to know it, and they know it. So if you're even a little bit wrong, they know you're wrong. You can't hide it. You can't mask it. That's it. They know, you don't know what you're talking about. So it's an endeavor. If you're going to take it, be devout. And if you're going to take it, be prepared. And if your grammar is not, if you don't like writing, you don't belong in law school. Okay. That's number one. I used to think like, you don't have to write that much. You have to write more than you've ever had to write in your life. And if your grammar is not good, Professor Rupp and Dr. Rinker and Dr. Yu will all tell you, they will rip your papers apart. And when they do it, thank them, kiss their hand, because they are saving you a lot of trouble. Okay. They used to critique my stuff and I would get a little defensive. And I wish I just said thank you, because I learned. It's like, they're like sandpaper. You're a stone. They're making you shiny. Okay. And let them do it. Do not interrupt their work. There's a lot of writing. So make sure your grammar is good. Make sure your writing is good. Your sentences are coherent. You're gonna, just trust me, use active voice. Like there are so many things that you just don't anticipate. And when you're in it, you become so overwhelmed. It's like a flurry. Everything is around you and you're still adjusting. You feel disoriented. And at the same time, you have to absorb all this information. And like Leslie said, outlines are your best friends. You need to know how to condense and make accessible your information so you know what's going on. Because by the time the finals come, you want to be able to absorb that outline in a way that the information is coherent to you, but it's condensed enough that you have trigger words. Like, oh yeah, that correlates with that, and that is related to that, and that's how you get to that law. Or the case about dogs. Like we had so many cases about bananas in my torts class. And so you have to know, okay, that banana, in the case where the lady fell in the train station, the banana was brown. That indicates it was there for a long time. There was negligence. Nobody cleaned it up. You need to know what these triggers are and how they correlate to the law. And you're going to be so overwhelmed, right? And this is all stuff that you're like, oh, I don't need to know that right now, because you don't, but you need to be prepared. That you need to prepare for the environment and make it suitable that when they're throwing all this information at you, you can start catching it. And one of those ways, like Leslie said, gold star outlines.
Okay, so I have a question. I've been going back and forth with this because my best friend and I, we applied together, and that's who I study with the LSAT with, or study for the LSAT with. But I was thinking about handwriting my outlines and then typing them every week, so I maintain them typed, and that way, because I don't know about you guys, I can't sit in class with a computer and not go on social media. So I was like, if I'm in class and I take my notebook with me every week and I'm there and I'm writing it down, but then I write it all at the end of the week, how do you feel about that? Does that seem like?
Okay, so I'll take this first, and Leslie, you please, because you and me might be the same or different, I don't know. But I am older than I look, okay? I'm a handwriter. I like to handwrite. I need to handwrite everything. But your outlines are you're gonna want them computer outlines, right? So that they're tabbable. You're gonna want to create a table of contents that is clickable. So, but you're gonna be really overwhelmed with reading. I think for each class, I don't know about you, Leslie, for each class, for me, it's you're reading 10 cases before class. Each one's 13 pages or more. So it's you have how many classes a day? 4 to 5. I don't know that you're gonna have time, to be honest, to do that. I like to handwrite my notes, so I would handwrite my notes, and then I would borrow outlines from other people, because if I handwrite my notes, it solidifies in my mind, because I use blue ink. These are all the tips that I got. Use blue ink, handwrite, whatever helps it memorialize it in your mind. But then I would just borrow other people's outlines, which everybody should make their own outline. Don't be like me and don't be lazy.
Yeah, you know what, Chloe, I learned the same way. I learn a lot easier to handwrite everything, but like Rosa said, you're reading 13-page cases, and that's in 10 cases for one class. So the amount of time, unless you just are a light sleeper and you can survive on 3 minutes a day, it's just not feasible. Not only that, but you can use your outlines. Well, we can use our outlines for finals and midterms. So you want to have it typed up so that you can search the document, because if you recognize the rule, you can search the document and then you have all the information right there front center. But I'm just like you. I learn a lot quicker by handwriting. What I would suggest for everyone is, if there's a certain term or a certain rule or a certain case that you're just not understanding, write that out so that you have it in your mind, and then type it into your full semester outline.
Yeah, just to add on that, Leslie, your school must be cool as heck, because they let you guys use outlines in exams. I'm salty. We have lockdown browser. So no, we don't get that. Yeah. And so they don't make us have the case name, but you have to like reference like the case people. It's pretty miserable, I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, I definitely suggest I definitely would suggest if you're gonna do your outlines or you're typing your notes and you're worried about social media, another thing is you can turn off Wi-Fi. I'm not a big social media person anymore since law school. It kind of does drain all the social energy out of you. But if you want to turn off your Wi-Fi and use your computer, that's one thing. But if you're like me and you need to handwrite your notes, because I would use those during finals. I could bring in handwritten notes, but I'm not allowed to. We have lockdown browser, our computers, we were not allowed to use our computer. But when I was studying for each final, my school breaks them up. So you can't have like 2 finals within 3 days. They won't allow that. So for like that, those finals that I'm studying for we have a read period too of like 10 days. So during my read period, I'm breaking it up between classes and I would try and read my handwritten notes and then be able to click on my table of contents on my outline, and it would take me directly to what I'm reading, and I can like correspond between the two. And I feel like that was also really helpful. So yeah, I wish I'm going to start taking Leslie's tips for myself in this next semester.
So I've obviously never been to law school, but just to be a little bit nerdy about this, handwriting your notes and doing that in class instead of typing it on a computer, research shows that you retain the information and make connections much better. I know many of us feel like we do better taking notes on an electronic device, but research actually suggests the opposite, that handwriting your notes and then going back and add to it if you need to on a computer, that's the best way, but definitely handwrite in class. I have one more last question before we turn you loose and let the students, have at it. If you have to offer just one advice or suggestion to people who are interested in law school, what would you tell the students?
Okay. Go ahead, Chloe.
I was gonna say, well, I'm not in law school yet, but
You could say, applying when you're
Right.
applying.
The one thing that was really my saving grace is I had a sorority sister who went to a T14 school, and she was like, she's paying maybe a little bit for it. And at that point, like talking to somebody who's gone where you want to go or in the direction that you want to go. And for me, it was like, I don't want to pay for it, was super helpful to me because she is the one who opened me up to all the resources I needed. And truthfully, like, knowledge is power, right? So like knowing what you're dealing with when you're doing this is so important, because my attorney applied like before the internet, and he was like, you have all these resources that I didn't have. And that's kind of like the beauty of like what we're, the age that we're in, is that like this knowledge is, out there. You just need to find the right person. And another thing that I'll say is, don't let people discourage you, because I had a professor say, well, you scored X, you're probably not going to increase much more than that on the LSAT. And I said, okay, watch me. And then I also had like all my attorneys at work, and I work with like 40 attorneys. They were like, you're going to pay for law school. And I was like, no, I'm not. And so just like remember your purpose and remember like what you set your mind to. And I am an Alpha Chi Omega to Sophia.
I was just asking because I'm a KD, so I was just wondering.
Oh, yeah. Alpha Chi.
I was gonna say on top of that, like I feel like a lot of people will try and tell you, don't go to law school, don't go to law school. Like I worked at a law firm and we hired a lot of people who didn't pass the bar because I'm in Florida and it's notoriously hard bar. I think that only like 60% of people pass a year or something. It's like the second hardest in the country. And everybody there didn't pass the bar, and they were working there and they're like, don't go to law school. Like it's a trap. Don't do it. Don't do it. And I didn't listen to any of them. And I'm glad I didn't, because I feel like, I feel so at home in my environment now that I'm not lost. Right. So the first year you will be lost. That's one thing you should know. Just, you are going to be overwhelmed. It's a lot. It's change of pace. and it's just a lot. I think that I personally, I consider myself somebody that's very easily adaptive to environments and to new things. And I was like so overwhelmed in my first like through like month that I didn't even know what the heck was going on. Sometimes I would like be like, what time is it? Like, what day is today? And it's something you only know once you're in it, but it's overwhelming. The only way I can say to prepare is prepare your studying skills, prepare your environment, prepare your adaptation. So when you're trying to take in the information that you need, you're not so overwhelmed by the circumstance. I'd say as far as application process, one like major advice I would give is figure out what state you want to practice in, because that matters. That's like a really big thing. I didn't think I wanted to practice in Tampa, right? I was like, I'm leaving Tampa, bye, I'm going to Chicago forever now. And then Chicago has like a starting rate of like 65 or 70,000 for first, like out of grad first year associates. And Florida has like 90. And I was like, okay, but it's because Illinois is a lot easier. But Chicago is a hub. Chicago has like 5 law schools, and people are coming from Kansas. And where are they going to work? It's Chicago. There's a saturation of the market and a high cost of living. So you need to know where you're going to go. And then because of COVID, I was actually blessed to call a friend up who just opened his own law firm. And I said, hey, I need an internship for my school. And he said, okay, I'll hire you. And then he's now telling me like, I'm going to take 25% of your pay every month and you'll become a partner in 4 years and you'll have equity partnership. So, you know, I'm buying my way into partnership already now, and I haven't graduated yet because I was lucky, but also because Florida has those opportunities. So I decided now I'm going to take the bar in Florida. And now I'm taking classes that my school is allowing me to take and curating classes for me to learn Florida law. So you need to know where you're going to go to school, because you need to know where you're going to take the bar, and you need to take specialized classes. Every state has a state bar because every state has different property. There's community property, and there's help me out, Leslie, what does Texas have? It's not community property, it's conjoined property or something. There's 2 different types of property law, and it depends on what state you're in. There's different types of family law, and it depends on what state you're in. So figure out, where do you want to work? What is the average bar passage rate? What is the average cost of living? What is the average income for associates? How far does your partnership track? Because a partnership track is typically like 10 years, 6 to 10 years. You need to decide all these things and then say, here's where I'm going to apply. Ask for waivers for your applications. Don't pay for an application. And once you're in law school, I suggest getting a good study group, and don't be overwhelmed. Try and find a buddy if you can, and just try and make sure that you're adapting to the environment. So when it comes to absorbing the information, you're not letting that environment prevent you from succeeding in the academic substantive like part of the education process.
And to kind of tail off of that, just because like I'm in Florida, and Leslie, I'll let you go after this, but just because we're talking about Florida, Florida State is like the second best law school in Florida. It's right behind UF. But if you look at FIU, which is ranked lower, they crank more students out into big law because Florida State's right in Tallahassee, and big law isn't in Tallahassee. So if you know you want to do big law, you need to look at LST and see what percentage of people they crank out into big law. Because to me, if I only wanted to do public service and I was for sure that I wanted to do public service, I would go FSU. But if I wanted a chance at big law, I'd take a hit in rank and I'd go to a lower ranked school because they're in Miami and big law is really big there. So you kind of have to know, like, you want to leave your options open. Like for me, I wanted to have a chance to do different things because I'm preparing myself to change my mind in case I go to law school and want to do big law or family law. So research like how well-rounded a school is. And if you know you for sure want to do something, then look into what percentage of people graduate from that school and go into that field of law.
I think Chloe and Rosa gave really, really good advice. What I probably would want to say is that I work for a real estate attorney, and it's private, and you know, it's like a family. There are so many areas of law. I think that what Rosa said really struck me as far as her being adaptive, because if you're going to go into law school, you have to be a chameleon. And the reason why I say that is because probably most of the people who are here with us, you guys are probably top in your class. You guys are probably like the best students Otherwise, you wouldn't be considering grad school, right? When you get to law school, you're not going to be BMOC. You're just not, because everybody that's in law school is similar to you. They have the same qualifications. They're just as intelligent. I will be honest, I did nowhere near as well on the LSAT as Chloe and Rosa. I got a 151. I was not taking it again. I had to save my brain power for the bar exam. I still got in. And this is not cheering on mediocrity, you guys. I'm just saying that you do not have to have phenomenal scores. You do not have to be the best in your class. Also, on my last semester, on my midterms, I did not pass a single midterm. I was ready. I was literally about to quit school. I ended up on the dean's list. So what I'm telling you this because even if you think that you're not doing well when you get into that first semester, just take into consideration that law school is not easy. Not everybody can do law school. Just keep fighting, keep working. If you understand the material, you will get to that end goal. But the best thing that I can tell you is to be resilient, because you're going to meet challenges that you never thought that you would.
Okay, I'll second that and say resilience is like number one. Leslie, you were like speaking to my soul right now, because it's everybody there is the top in their class. Okay, everybody there went there because they could get some scholarships and they did really well. And now you're looking at a bunch of people who are top in your class and they're all competitive, because you can only get 2 A+ in the whole class of 70 and only 3 A's in the whole class of 70. It's curved. It's like hyper competitive. Okay, it's crazy. But then everybody still wants to be cool with each other, because these are the people that are going to be your colleagues in the legal world. I also work at a real estate law firm. So it's awesome. I love it. I really do love real estate. I didn't think I'd like it. I thought it would be boring, but I really enjoy it. But like she said, you have to be a chameleon, because every aspect in the world uses the law in some way. Teachers need lawyers, schools need lawyers, garbage men use lawyers. Anybody who gets in a car accident needs a lawyer. Anybody who drives a car needs a lawyer. Lawyers create everything. Those waivers when you go bungee jumping, like there is lawyers involved in every process of everything. There's a lawyer. So you need to know something. And if you don't need to know something, you need to know an expert who's going to be able to teach it to you in a way that you'll understand it. And you're going to have to become an expert in a lot of things you didn't think you would care about. So yeah, like lawyers need to be adaptable. You need to be able to learn something, figure it out, and adapt. Also, something I will say, I didn't do as well as I thought I would in my first semester either. I was top of my class in arguing during class, and midterms, I was phenomenal. Finals, I was not as good as I thought, right? I got B's and I was like crying about it, because I was like, I was top, you know, in my midterms, I was number one. And it's because it's a competitive environment, you know, people were study grouping together and throwing me off. And it's something you just need to be prepared for and be resilient and be ready to like brush it off and keep going. But I learned, and I wish I knew this before, you learn a lot and you'll advance faster if you meet with your professors. Your professors are there for you. Meet with them during their office hours. Don't say like, I already went to class and I'm so tired and I want to go study now. Meet with your professors. If you have the opportunity to meet with them, it's a resource, use it. Don't let it squander, because that could be the difference between a B and an A+.
Oh man, I was hoping you would not say that, Rosa. So that exhausted all of the questions that I have, but I noticed that, you know, there have been questions in chat. Jasmine, you have a question about personal statements?
Yes. I just basically wanted to know like how you guys went about writing yours.
So for our guests, you do not have to share anything personal that you put in your personal statement, but perhaps some tips and suggestions for the students.
So I'll jump in on this one because this is actually kind of a funny story. So when I started with my personal statement, the attorney that I work for, she was kind of a major catalyst for me for applying, because she wanted me to take over the firm. She's ready to retire. Her sister, she comes from a powerhouse family, of course. She's got 2 attorneys. Her sister used to be an architect. So anyways, long story short, they started getting into my head. They told me, email your personal story. We'll work on it. We'll do this. We'll do that. And before I knew it, like everyone's input turned it into something that it wasn't, it was a lie. It was not me. So I grabbed it by the reins. I took control of it and I'm like, you know what? I'm doing this myself. I actually Googled examples of personal statements. I know it's kind of cheating, but it's not, because what I was looking for is I was looking for a format. I am more than happy to email out my personal statement. It is nothing so personal that, you know, nobody can read it. But everything that I read about writing your personal statement said to turn it into a story that you're making about your life. So, and that's exactly what I did. So I did, before everyone got here, I put my email in the chat. So if anybody wants to take a look at it, I am more than happy to pass that along.
And it's definitely not cheating, Leslie, because I did the exact same thing.
Thank you so much.
For me, my personal statement was, oh shoot, I don't know what I'm clicking, was very personal. I actually had a full personal statement written out and I deleted it. I actually deleted 2 personal statements and then I settled on my third. My third was incredibly personal, but it was really motivating as to why I wanted to go to law school. And part of it too is, you kind of like Leslie said, I had one where it went around to different people and it wasn't me anymore. And then I was frustrated, but I did listen to like input that people said, but I trusted myself with my last one enough to recognize like what was valuable input and what wasn't. And so I think that's kind of like a really strong skill to learn also, because everybody's going to have something to say about your writing. The other thing that I wrote too was a diversity statement. And I'm a first-gen college student. So I wrote about what being a first-generation college student was, primarily because I got into undergrad and I had no idea what I was doing. And by the grace of God and luck and definitely help from Oyang, I ended up doing really well my first year, and that set me on a track for success. And if you have anything about you that is diverse, whether that's like, you know, your religion or your race, or if you're a first-gen college student, you should totally write a diversity statement. You should absolutely write a diversity statement. So.
My personal statement was pretty personal. I sent it to Dr. Yu and Dr. Rinker, and they gave me a lot of feedback. And they didn't change the content of it. They kind of were telling me like, here's what you're saying, format it in this way. Like, tell the story in a way that rounds out. Don't I gave them I remember I got 2 different sets from them, and I also did Dr. Swartz, who I don't know if these new students are familiar with it, with Dr. Swartz, but love him. So I got some really good feedback from them, but nobody tried to change the content for me. Luckily, I didn't have that issue. They just were saying like, say it in a way that's not cliche. Like, you don't want to say a cliche like, oh my God, like I want to save the world and all the rabbits and I want to create new laws for them. That's not what's going to get you into law school, because that's not the way the law works, right? You don't like create laws for people. You don't like change the world in that way, but it's taking incremental steps that have a domino effect and change the world in that way. Like, I want to help my neighbor. I want to help my roommate. I want to help my parents. I want to help my community. And that's what I said. My community, I said, I have displaced peoples in my community. I have a religious home that I consider my home. And I use those things to say, I want to impact my home. I want to impact my community. I want to use these little incremental steps that I can have an impact on each one and make my community and my home a better place. And I feel like that was an effective statement for me, because the first ones I was trying to write, I was so cliche. I think Dr. Rinker was trying to be very sweet about it. But I remember she said something that was like, maybe what else, like, what other things are you thinking? And I was like, okay, I sound like I'm trying to go out and, you know, save all the endangered animals in the world with the law. And that's just not happening. So it definitely needs to be something that speaks to you, right? Each person has an individual story of your life. You're an individual person, right? You have a special story, and it doesn't have to be like some exaggerated, I want to go to law school because the law calls my name. No, like, It doesn't have to be like that. You don't even have to necessarily link it back to law school, but just link it back to like yourself, like having faith in yourself, having confidence in yourself that you can take on anything. It doesn't even have to be law school related, but just speak to yourself and let it be authentic.
And you're not going to want to reiterate your resume, and also don't expect to write it in a weekend. It's not going to just take you like a day to write it. It took me like a month, like a grueling month where I was just like working at it every day, driving my boyfriend insane, you know?
Also, Ariana, I did the diversity statement too. It's not the same as your personal statement. My diversity statement was was a cultural, ethnic, and religious diversity statement, which is different, I think, than other people's, which you could do. Like Chloe had said, she was first gen college student. So hers is going to be a little bit different, but I think maybe what she might have done, or what I had done, is my personal statement was something more broad about myself, about my own confidence, personality traits, character traits. And then my diversity statement was more direct, like, I'm a diverse student. I can contribute to the student body, and I can contribute to conversation from a lens that other students might not have. This is going to benefit you because I have these experiences. I have these challenges that I face because of my diversity, and they have helped me to have this viewpoint that you're not going to find and your student body is going to need. And that's how I kind of use that.
And that's exactly how it should be written. For me, mine was like, I didn't know what I was doing, and you can either sink or swim, and I chose to swim. And it's not like it was like easy. Like, I chronicled the things that like came with being like a first gen college student, like for like having no idea what I was doing. I worked 30 hours a week to help pay for school. I was involved in all these different clubs because I didn't know how to like navigate things. And also I went to the University of Tampa, incredibly privileged. I was so first gen that I didn't know that a private school was a private school, because I was like, oh, you can apply to it. Like, it's not private, because I didn't know the difference between private and public. And then when I went private, I came from like a very diverse area into a sea of white people. And like, I blend in, but it was complete culture shock. And so like having people like complain about like, mom didn't buy me a new BMW after I crashed my last one, was very different. Also, like having friends whose parents are like serious diplomats was very different than like my blue collar background.
I had no idea you went to UT.
Well, it wasn't all white people. You had at least one Asian professor there.
Yeah, you got booted for the white lady though.
So I think that was Viviana, would you like to ask your question?
Did anyone have to go through the interview process of the application process?
I did. I interviewed with Vanderbilt, and I haven't heard back yet. So there's certain schools that are like notorious for ghosting you, because they can, which is like, it like drives me insane. But so I interviewed with Vanderbilt, and so what they did is they matched me with someone in the area. And there's Cura interviews. So Rosa, I didn't apply to anyone that had a Cura interview, because I only applied to one T14 because I didn't expect to really like get in. And again, I was like, I'm not going to pay for it. After looking at the 509s, it just didn't make sense for me to throw money at that. But Cura interviews are recorded interviews where they ask you a question and you repeat your answer into the phone. And then that's like, because Northwestern will tell you that they interview everyone, but they send out a recording thing and you respond like within a certain time period. Like, you have a certain amount of like time to respond to that, and then they move on to the next question, and then they review your answers. So those are the two interview processes that I know about. There is some argument that like the interview process is inherently biased. So I don't know. Oh, and I did interview with WashU. So WashU interviewed me, and they interviewed me before I applied, which is absolutely biased because I gave them access to my LSAT and my GPA. So they sent out an interview request before I had even applied. And they not only waived, there's 2 levels. I'm sorry, I talk so much. There's 2 levels to the application. There's the LSAC, which I call ball sack fee. And then there's the application fee. And so you can have your application fee waived, but you're still going to pay $50 to apply to that school no matter what. But so when I took that interview with WashU beforehand, they waived my LSAC fee. So I applied completely for free. And then within the next 2 weeks after I applied, I got in. And that was like a top 20 school. And I don't plan on going there. They tend to throw a lot of money out at students, but it was just, it's interesting because I interviewed with the dean. I will say, like, outside of that, the deans will call you when you get like a really good scholarship and they want to like butter you up. Like the dean of Indiana called me and talked to me about like my personal statement and what my letters of recommendation had in them. So, but you also have to recognize that it's a game to them also, because their college rank is based off of their median LSAT and their median GPA. So like you may think that they care about you, but they care about the rank. I love doing this. Sorry.
Okay, I've never thought they cared about me, but yes, I have done a few interviews. I interviewed with UT, University of Texas, Austin, go Longhorns, but I didn't obviously go Longhorns, or I would have been there. I interviewed with Yale, which was cool. And then I got waitlisted, which was not so cool. I interviewed with UF, University of Florida in Gainesville. I actually met with the dean and sat in on a class. That was really cool because they were like, go ahead, participate. And I just started participating and they were like, she's correct. And then somebody literally pulled a Mean Girls and said, she doesn't even go here. So that was cool. What else? I did another interview. So Northwestern, I did an interview. I had heard they did Kira, but I heard the people they were serious about did like in-person interviews. I interviewed with University of Chicago. So I did, for UF, I did an in-person interview. For UT, I did a Kira interview followed up by a real interview. For Yale, I did an interview with the dean, a phone interview, which was cool. And for who else? Oh, University of Chicago, I did a Kira interview and then a regular interview, which was like fine. The Kira interviews are just like, it's like she said, just like they send you something, you have a limited time to record and it'll tell you like how long you have before or whatever. And then it just keeps rolling. But I do see that there is a bit of a bias. If you're like socially awkward or if you're nervous or whatever, it does definitely diminish your ability. But I think it's because they really want really strong contenders. They care a lot about their rank because the higher scores that they have, the more selective they can be, the more they can charge, right? So if they can have a higher bar passage rate, if they can get people, if they can attract people with higher scores, then they can charge more and they can become more exclusive and a higher school and they can bump their rankings up fast. Like UF, when I applied, they were like on track to be a top 20 school already. And now they're like number 18 and they were like number 30 and they just like, boom, just like went with it. But I decided to go to Chicago and then I decided not to go to U Chicago. So yeah, but I did some interviews. They were like I did only 2 were video interviews. The rest were on the phone. So I mean, yes, the video interviews I dressed professionally, wore a blazer, all that. Phone interviews, I just made sure to sound like cheerful and happy, try to be a little charming, or you don't want to be you don't want to overdo it. You can overdo it very easily. And then you can start to sound like you're stumbling or you're reaching. You want to just show that you have social skills to be an everyday person, but also that you have sophistication to be eloquent and successful in a professional environment. So that is my advice for anybody with interviews.
And review your resume. Make sure that you're prepared to talk about what's on your resume.
And review the school. Okay, each school has certain specialties. Like UT, I reviewed that they had like a special housing clinic, right? So they had like special housing clinic. University of Chicago, there's like a former Supreme Court justice who's still on staff there. Yale doesn't have grades. So like different schools like have different like little niche things about them. Obviously they have a lot of niche things, but pick like one or two that you can really know. So if they ask you like, why my school? I was like, for Yale, I was like, no grades, you know, it's great. Connecticut sounds awesome, amazing, a competitive program. Like Chicago, I was like, Chicago was home for me, but also, you know, Supreme Court Justice Posner, he's so special and I love having him on campus. Like, you know, things like that, that you can work into your responses. So it sounds like, wow, she's really dedicated to us, not just to herself.
I also read a couple of papers by the law professors before I sat down for WashU. And I was like, oh, X, Y, and Z's work is amazing, like blah, 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 and talked about that as well.
I gotta tell you that one of the things that I did when I applied for jobs, I did not apply to many graduate programs, but one of the things that I made sure to do was separate the application files that I submit to each school for jobs, so that if I ever got an interview request back, I make sure to look at the lies that I told them. Because, you know, if you get to the point where you apply to many places, it's kind of hard to track on, did I send my diversity statement to this school or not? So I separate everything by the schools that I apply to. And I review all of that stuff if I need to talk to somebody.
Okay, I definitely 200% suggest that. I make separate folders, but here's something I'm also going to say. When you go to take the bar exam and you apply for the bar exam, they will have access to every single thing. They have access to your birth certificate. They have access to every doctor's visit. If you've ever sneezed in the wrong direction, didn't cover your mouth, the bar will know, okay? They will know. They need to know all your applications, what you put, what you wrote. So make sure you don't fluff your resume before you send it to a law school. Don't do it, because they will call all of those employers and ask if you work there. So that is something. I know people who put things on their resume that were just not true. And now they're like, what am I supposed to do? The bar is going to say I'm a liar. And then they're not going to clear a liar to be a lawyer. So don't fluff your resume before submitting it with your application, or you're going to have to go and stand before the bar and the ethics committee in a formal trial hearing when you want to become an attorney and say, yeah, I lied because I thought it would make my resume look really cool. And they are not going to think that's worthy of lying.
So Rosa, I just had to, because that's hilarious, but our dean of whatever, there's so many deans in law school, you just forget what they do. Our dean at the very beginning of our orientation, she's like, by the way, if you have fluffed anything in your application, please come see me, because when we go to apply for your bar, we're gonna have to fix that. So it was kind of like one of those things where let's just knock it out and get it out of the way before you have to go in front of the actual state of Illinois Supreme Court.
And that kind of deals with like your disclosures too. Like you have to disclose, like when you apply, all your tickets, like if you've ever been in trouble for like anything on campus, or if I had a school ask me if I cheated in middle school. And I was like, no, like I wouldn't even remember. Like it was insane.
So just to clarify, I didn't lie on anything, okay? I just want to make sure that
I understand, Dr. I almost lied. Okay, there were some times I was borderline on the truth, and then my friend who's an attorney, the one I work for now, he was like, "Don't borderline anything." He's like, "Yes or no," and I was like, "But I kind of," and he was like, "No, yes or no, like pick a side."
No borderline at all. But I just want to know what the hell I submitted to that school.
No, there were some times where I was like ready to stretch it. And then he was like, do not do that. You will be asked about it. So anything anything you guys are going to put, just know, if you don't speak Spanish, don't even say it. Just don't put it on your resume. I know that you could say you're a great tap dancer and a lot of people will think it's cool in employment opportunities. Don't put it on your resume that you send into the bar, and don't put it on your resumes. And, they'll get resumes from other jobs. They were going to ask your jobs that you previously worked for to send copies of your employment file and what was on your resume. They will know everything. So if you don't want to submit everything, then you can't apply for the bar. Like you have every traffic ticket, every place you've ever lived since you were like 13. I'm starting my bar application and I think I would like to be a paralegal at this point.
And I'll drop my email in the chat if anybody has any questions, because your resume for when you go to apply to law school is significantly different than your everyday resume. And I can give you some resources on that. And if you need anything at all, after you like apply and you're like in the process of like going to law school, like I'm so bored. I don't do anything for so long. My life was like LSAT. And now I'm just like waiting for law school to start, and I should be having fun, but like we're in a pandemic. So if you need anything or any advice or any questions, please reach out to me.
Wait, are you offering free labor here?
Yes, I'm so bored. I play Mortal Kombat with my boyfriend now. Like that's what I do. Like video games. That and it's like Rocket League, but I call it Hot Wheels.
I know exactly what Rocket League is. We have about 10 minutes left. Is there anyone that still has a question for our guests? Raheem, Vicky, Sophia, Ariana, Raven, Joey?
They took care of every question that I had, so I'm good over here. Well, you know what? The specific type of law that I want to go into is wrongful convictions. Would that be considered a defense attorney, or how does that work?
I would say that would be something so wrongful convictions can go under two camps. It can go under criminal, and it's also going to go under a civil. So you're going to have to know some tort law, which is like civil law for damages or money. And then you're also going to have to know your criminal law. So I would say you're a mix of criminal defense and human rights, but also with some civil lawyer, which is like a personal injury lawyer, because it's still considered an injury. So study your torts, girl. That's the worst class probably that ever existed.
Well, don't tell
And
them that.
also, if I could add in that, it sounds to me like maybe Innocence Project, and I know that Northwestern has a branch of that. In fact, one of my former professors at Loyola, when I did paralegal school, she actually worked for them. Find a law school that either has Innocence Project on campus or works closely with them, because you will, if you want to defend people who've been wrongfully convicted, that's going to be the exact thing that you're going to want to do.
Also, look out for scholarships for that. I think it was the NAACP who just cranked out like 20 lawyers who they were paying for their living expenses and their tuition at any school they wanted to go to if they were doing civil rights in the South this year. And you just had to do a couple of essays. It was like some random donor who donated it, but just keep an eye out, because you never know when something crazy like that is going to happen. I've never personally heard of that happening, but that's an amazing opportunity.
I would also add though, for that is you don't have to go to this, like there is some schools with those awesome programs. And I would definitely suggest looking into them. But if that school is too expensive for you and you want to try and take the advice to go to a free school, you can do a visiting semester at those schools. There's always the option of doing a visiting semester and paying for one semester and getting the other 2.5 years for free. And then paying that one semester and taking the courses with those professors that you want to network with. So like I'm considering visiting semester in Florida so I can stay down here for my last semester. And like continue working or learn Florida law in a specialty environment. But my school's kind of making like independent study courses for me, so I'm not as worried about it. But if I wanted to do something where I maybe I didn't get into a school with an Innocence Project, or it was beyond my reach financially, I would do a visiting semester at that school, apply and say, I want to come here and do 1 or 2 semesters. I want to do my transfer credits here because I want to work with your Innocence Project, and I want to work under these professors who are so profound in this department, and they'll accept you most likely because they want the money and because you want to do something specific that they are known for, and you can do that and then just transfer the credits right back to your school and your school will accept it. And so I think that that's a noble thing, and I think you should definitely pursue it.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Any other questions? No?
I'm just
Oh.
gonna drop the site that I used to study for the LSAT. You can have a free week trial. Beware, the podcast is a little negative and a little like aggressive, so I wouldn't necessarily pay too much attention to that. But on there, it will also give you a scholarship calculator, and it'll factor in like your GPA, your LSAT, and if you're a URM, which is like an underrepresented minority, because that impacts like your scholarship and your acceptances also. So that was the best tool that I used because I did like a program in Tampa that was like nonprofit, and it cost me like $800, and it was like the biggest waste of time that I've ever done.
Did you do Blackstone?
Oh, she, you know, and she's nice. She's just the worst.
People who liked Blackstone, but yeah, I was just gonna say, Dr. Yu, I used Khan Academy. I loved Khan Academy. It was awesome, perfect for me. It was free, and I suggest everybody try it. Or I heard a lot of great things about LSAT Demon. I actually signed up with them, and then they sent me all the emails, and I was tempted, but I worked full time, and I didn't feel like paying for something if I wasn't 100% dedicated. But yeah, no, Blackstone was notoriously. I know people used her and gained like 8 points or something, but after like the second time taking it or something. I'll drop my email as well if anybody has any questions about law school, job seeking, networking, or anything. Feel free to reach out to me. I will reply within 1 to 2 business days.
I would just say thank you to Leslie, Chloe, and Rosa for the students on this call, for the undergraduate students on this call. You know, law school is not something to be taken lightly, and as you heard this evening, it definitely takes a lot of preparation, you know, just to get yourself ready to apply. You have an opportunity to chat with some awesome professors here. Find somebody that you like and work with them to prepare you for law school and to, you know, get you set up for the application process. The more people that, you know, you get eyes on your resume, for instance, you do not have to take, you know, all of their suggestions, but, you know, the more people that see it, the more likely that you get a really, really good product at the end of the process. Thank you
I want
all.
to second that. Oh, I was gonna say yes. Dr. Yu, Dr. Rinker, and Dr. Swartz were like my cornerstone. It's a support system. You need a village to really go through your stuff, refine it. And they were just, and Dr. Rupp, but he kind of abandoned us at the end. But they were just, I was so defensive when they would give me feedback and they were just trying to better me. They're just trying to help you and take it. Trust me, when they go through your papers, and hopefully maybe I'm just really a terrible writer, but when they go through your work and they're telling you, you need to fix this, you need to fix that, you need to do this and that, like just take it and really like listen and really absorb it. And you are going to I loved having them as a resource. And I just really want everybody to really take advantage of the resources that are right in front of you. They are right there. They're in their office hours and they will always have an open door policy. Just please listen to me. Take advantage of it and do it when you get into law school too, because you learn more from office hours when you're able to express questions without like worrying about other people or worrying about taking up class time. And my professors were like the Hollywood ones, right? That were like, no, wrong answer, next, please sit down, like stop talking, stand up when you talk, like lawyers talk on their feet. They were the mean Hollywood ones, but when you're in their office hours, they are so supportive and kind. And that's when you can, like, you gain so much from office hours. Please take advantage of it.
And also set yourself up for success. Like, don't plan to take the LSAT a month from now and apply like a month after. Make sure you're like realistic with your timeline. Just because you want to be successful when you're going into this. So take the time that you need. If you can't dedicate like 10, 12 hours a week to studying for the LSAT right now, don't set yourself up for failure. Like take a break. I took time off because like undergrad is like, you know, can be difficult, especially when you get into your upper levels. And so like just be smart with it.
please feel free to reach out to me. You guys have my email. I promise I will respond. If I don't respond right away, it's because I'm just really lazy sometimes, I'm not gonna lie. But I am always available as a resource if you need me, and I will answer any questions that I can. And if I can't answer a question, I will tell you who I think you should ask, like Dr. Rinker, Dr. Yu, Professor Rupp, Dr. Rupp, or Dr. Swartz. All of them are amazing, and I miss them so much, and I wish they taught law school.
Well, thank you. I know we took a photo together at the beginning, but we have a few more people on the call right now. Would you all mind if we take another screenshot? Awesome. Would you mind turning on your webcam and so we could take a nice picture together?
I love that Sophia's getting ready. I'm about to get myself ready too. She said, let me pull his hair down. Okay. Love it, Jasmine. Oh my gosh. It's been so long. I should have worn my shirt. Okay, hold on. Sorry.
You don't have to turn your webcam on, but if you can and you're willing to let us see you, I'll let me know when you're ready. Yes? All right, on count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Excellent. Thank you.
Well, it's been really great talking with you all. Again, if you need anything, let me know.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, all three of you. Thank you so much for chatting with us. And if there's something that we could do for you here at PNW, let us know. And if I ever get, in trouble in Florida, I know who to call.
If you're ever buying or selling a house, Professor Yu, I do closings.
I don't know about that, but I'll keep that in mind. Thank you. Have a great evening, everyone.
Goodbye. Thanks for having us.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming, everyone. It was an absolutely incredible event. Super helpful. Oh my goodness. You're making me think about law school. I wasn't even doing it before, but thanks, guys.
And this is going to go up on our YouTube channel. So if you want to see this again, it will be up.
Thanks.
Nice.
Too cringy.
Seriously, thank you all so much.
Good night.